What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadski, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. News time has just hit. We are less than 24 hours away from the release of the anniversary, the 10th anniversary Sugo-Fest here on One Piece Treasure Cruise, and we just got bombarded with a ton of information. They've just laid it all out there from between, tomorrow, where the big Sugo-Fest debuts, pretty much right up until probably around the 20th-ish of May. We've got a bunch of info happening, and yeah, we've got the Sugo-Fest, obviously, which is what we're mainly going to be talking about right here. We're going to talk about which is the best part to be pulling on, which I know a lot of people are still wondering at this point, and now we have the full information, which we're going to deep dive into for you guys in this video today. But I am going to be a little bit busy throughout the whole day tomorrow, so I won't be able to make too much content before the Sugo-Fest, and of course we're going to be live streaming when the Sugo-Fest goes live, so make sure to go down below in the description, follow me over on Twitch, make sure your notifications are turned on, because we're going to be doing a bunch of polls, hopefully getting our hands on some of these brand new 10th anniversary Sugo-Fest exclusives. So let's jump into it. May 11th to June 29th. So this banner is here for quite a while. And it's just, basic stuff right now, just, 15% chance to get a legend, so on average you should be getting at least one per multi, which is pretty dope. It does mention here right at the bottom, in this Super Sugo-Fest you will obtain 2 times more Sugo medals than usual. This is pretty cool, so just however many pulls you're doing, you just get double the amount of Sugo medals, allowing you to use those in the medal exchange, and there has been a new announcement of new medal exchange characters and new items that are currently available, so getting your hands on more of those is always a net positive. In this last paragraph at the bottom of the screen here, it does mention that the Shanks legend can be pulled in his normal form, which is the one where it's got Buggy, Luffy, and Blackbeard in the background, but there's also a chance to pull the character with the alternating ink pen artwork instead, and that one is the one with Big Mom, Kaido, and Blackbeard. So if you do end up pulling Shanks with Luffy, Buggy, and Blackbeard, you can use the alternating ink pens to change his artwork into the other one with Big Mom and Kaido. So that unit is pullable. They're both forms are pullable, just the one with Big Mom and Kaido is a much less chance, and if we go by what Luffy and Yamato is when they came out with their alternating ink pen artwork, the chances are astronomically low. Like, it's a really low chance to hit him, but just want to put it out there that both forms are pullable. So for those of you who don't know how this is going to work, in this Sugo-Fest there's 5 different parts. All parts of this Sugo-Fest are debuting on separate days. So starting tomorrow when the banner begins, part 1 is available. The day after that, part 2. The day after that, part 3 begins. And essentially, with all of these parts, the characters that are boosted on each of them is slightly different. All of the new characters are pullable on part 1 at a slightly lower rate than normal, but they are all pullable. But then you do see here that Luffy is on part 1 and part 2, Shanks is on part 1, part 3, Ace is on part 1, part 4, Roger is on part 1 and part 5, and then there's the new rare recruits of Nami, Sanji, and Zoro. All are on all the parts of the Sugo-Fest. Another thing that's kind of interesting to note about part 1 and why it is kind of good and bad at the same time is it says that in this Sugo-Fest, part 1 includes all Sugo-Fest exclusive characters from standard Sugo-Fests until April 27th. All Anniversary Sugo-Fest exclusives are also pullable on part 1, and all Super Sugo-Fest exclusives are pullable on part 1. However, despite the fact that there are so many characters that you can pull on part 1, only 20 of them have a rate boost attached to them. And then furthermore, on the other parts from parts 2 to part 5, there are only 30 available Sugo-Fest exclusives that you can get, ranging from Super Sugos, Annie-exclusives, and generic, normal Sugo-Fest exclusive characters. So as I was talking about, with each individual part of the Sugo-Fest, it is debuting on a separate day. So May 11th, tomorrow news time, or it's a little bit before news time, 2.5 hours before news time, is when the part 1 begins. Part 2 is going to be the day after it, and it's where Luffy is going to be featured, then Shanks, then Ace, and then Roger on part 5. So this is where we get to the breakdown of the structure. This is important. So we're going to mainly talk about part 1 first, and then we'll go back and talk about parts 2 and part 5 after the fact, because parts 2 and part 5 are identical, just the characters that are on each part are different. But part 1 has like a different structure overall, so this is important to go through. So You've got Last Wanted Poster is a rate boosted character. Now remember, as it said, that there's going to be 20 characters, 20 legends on part 1 that are rate boosted, meaning if you get a red poster on this step, it's guaranteed to be one of those 20 rate boosted characters, or it's one of the generic rare recruits. But you got a lot of different steps that are, so not very good. Like, this step is fine. If you get a red poster on one of these steps, it is a big deal because it has a much higher chance to be one of the new units, so that's cool. We've got this one right here, which is 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 13th, 23rd, and the 28th multi. Last Wanted Poster is a guaranteed legend, which is cool, you know, pretty generic stuff. 6th, 8th, 15th, and 25th multis on part 1. Last Wanted Poster is a rate boosted Sugo rare character. So as I mentioned, 20 characters are rate boosted on part 1 for the legends, meaning that 6, 8, 15, and 25, it's guaranteed to be one of those 20 available legends. So a much more restricted chance to get one of those new units, obviously. The 10th one, this is the big one right here. So this is what I think that a lot of people should be investing in. The 10th multi on part 1, all wanted posters are Sugo rares. So you get a full multi, 11 posters with reds. Like, that's wild, right? So these types of steps don't appear very often, and I would advise most people to just go to 10 multis on part 1. You're going to get a ton of legends on part 1 in those first 10 multis, right? So I think that it's still a pretty good idea to just do the 10 multis on part 1, which is obviously going to cost you 500 rainbow gems for those 10 multis. But from that amount of pulls, you're going to get quite a lot of reds, you're going to get a lot of rare recruits, and I think it's probably your best chance to get like one of the debuting characters. You have got a pretty decent shot at getting one of the units guaranteed from 10 multis. Now, don't think that, you know, what I said is 100% true. I say that, but there are definitely people out there that do those 10 multis and they get nothing. So don't think that by doing 10 multis, you're guaranteed anything. You're guaranteed to get some red posters for sure, but I can't guarantee that they will be good red posters, you know what I mean? So, you know, take it based on, you know, what your account needs. If you need some characters on part 1, it might be worthwhile to go that route. But considering the amount of reds that are available here, this is a really good chance to get one of the new characters, because if I remember correctly, parts 2, 3, 4, and 5 do not have this step, which is a big deal. We move on though. The 18th pull on the first part is a Super Sugo-Fest exclusive character. This is pretty cool. So obviously Super Sugos is the whole reason why we pull on these types of banners, and you're getting one of them guaranteed on the 18th pull. The 20th multi, all wanted posters are a 50% chance to be a legend. Now, to be honest, this just should have been the same as the 10th step. I don't understand why they decided not to go down that route, but if you go to the 20th pull, 50% chance for every poster to be a legend. So on average, you should get anywhere between 4, 5, or 6 legends. You might get a bit more than that. You might get a little bit less than that. Some people have gotten really unlucky on these types of steps in the past. The 30th pull, if you go all the way to the end on part 1, you're guaranteed to get one of the new Super Sugos. So it's going to be Luffy, Shanks, or Ace. Guaranteed to get one of those 3 on the 30th pull. But, you know, you could do, you know, your 29 multis and pull Luffy. That's it. Do the 30th pull and you could pull another Luffy, right? That could happen. So just putting it out there, you know, going all the way to the end, it's pretty steep, but you will get one of them guaranteed at a bare minimum. And that's the breakdown for part 1. Now let's actually have a look at the characters that are boosted for part 1. So these are the rate boosted units. You've got Luffy, Shanks, and Ace. They're all rate boosted, so that's cool. And you've obviously got the Roger as well as the Strength 9.5 anniversary Luffy, who is still pretty good. He's got a fantastic final tap, so don't disregard that Strength Luffy. He's actually still very, very nice to have. Now, you do have a list of other characters here, so 15 other legends are considered rate boosted, which have a much higher chance to be pulled on part 1. Now, as of this pull here, I mean, you've got a couple of decent units, right? You've got Quick Momo, very good in Pirate Rumble. You've got Legend Queen, who's still very good. Usopp and Yasop still see some play, I guess. V2 Odin, very good for Pirate Rumble as well. Quick Kaido, very good in Pirate Rumble. Wano Law is pretty good in Pirate Rumble. The rest of them are kind of average. I guess the Int Kid is not too bad either. But these are the characters that are the rate boosted, right? Now, just because you have these ones rate boosted, you can still pull any other generic legend and any other anniversary exclusive as shown here. So there's very good characters that are available here. And then the Super Sugos. All of these Super Sugo-Fest exclusives are also potentially pullable from part 1, but these guys are going to have a very, very low chance of being pulled. So don't go in expecting to potentially pull like Int Yamato, for example, or the original Gear 5 Luffy, or, you know, let's just say like Zoro and Sanji, who is one of the best units in the game. Don't go into part 1 expecting to pull these units, because the chances to pull them is very, very low. But they are available, which is good to see. But it's just that these ones here, these first 20 characters in part 1 are boosted chances. Now, all of that being said, I do think part 1 is actually really good to pull on because of the steps. The first 10 steps give you a lot of red posters, meaning a lot of chances to pull one of the new characters, whether it be Luffy, Shanks, Ace, or the brand new Gold Roger. So we've broken down part 1. I think part 1 is very, very good, but let's have a look at the parts 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the parts 2 onwards are all the same structure, just with different rate boosted characters. So this time you've got a lot of these pulls that are either a rate boosted character or a legend. These steps are really bad. It's luck of the draw. Not that good. Nothing really too crazy. Moving on from that though, you've got the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 13th, and the 18th pull is a Sugo rare character, guaranteed legend on 2, 3, 13, 18. 5, 8, and 25th is a limited pull legend. Then you've got the 10th and 20th multi is a super limited pull legend, okay. And then the 15th pull, all wanted posters, a 50% chance to be a Sugo rare. That's a cool step. We always love those. And then depending on which part you decide to pull on, you're going to get a different unit, guaranteed on the 30th multi. So we'll start with part 2, which is going to be the one focusing on Luffy. Now, remember, the thing about part 2 as well is that unlike part 1, there's only a select pool of characters that you can actually pull. So from the bottom here, Marco, all the way up to this part 2 label, these are the only legends you can pull on part 2. So this is where we need to have a look. Which part is going to have the best value in terms of the Super Sugos and the anniversary exclusives? So for part 2, you've got the new Luffy. I mean, all the anniversary units are great, so we can always value them quite highly. You've got Yamato next to him, the dual Yamato. The unit's okay, pretty decent, and very easy to team build for. And Mazor is fantastic, but very difficult to use. If you're a new player jumping into the game, this Zoro character is not a great choice in my opinion, just because he's very difficult to build for. But if you have a character like Legend Hiyori, is she even boosted on this part? She's not, yeah. So I don't think the pulling for En Mazor specifically is a big deal. This Sanji, Rush Sugo Sanji, is very good. I think that he's a fantastic unit. Legend Uta, one of my favorite legends in the game. I think she's phenomenal. Then you've got Yamato and Ace, a very beginner-friendly character. The ability to resist Special Bind and Bind as a captain by 10 turns is phenomenal. Helps you clear a lot of content. And then you got the last two, which is this blue Luffy, who's kind of outdated but did just receive level limit break. But if you're a new player or a returning player or a mid-level player, you're not going to have a lot of dupes in these units. So the blue Luffy and the Dex Lore, they're not really overly worth it. So like Luffy's great. Yamato is really good, and Mazor is fantastic, but very difficult to use for beginners. And then Sanji, I think, is actually very good. Uta's great. Ace Yamato is great. So part 2 looks alright. You got the anniversary exclusives below that with Cross Guild. Again, another character that's difficult to build for, but this character is honestly one of the greatest units that they've released in the past like 12 months. Very, very powerful unit. Then you've also got Odin and Toki, which I think is kind of not the greatest, a little bit outdated, so I don't think this character is like overly worth pulling for. And then the little kid Luffy is not amazing either, to be honest. He's just kind of mid, honestly. So the anniversary exclusives, Cross Guild's great, the other two, kind of mid. And then as for the generic legends here, I mean, Jack is really good. The Int Chopper is nice because he does duplicate Cotton Candy, which is really nice if you're starting the game. Also, EXP boosting Marco, another good unit to start the game with. You've got Halloween Ace, which has a great utility captain effect. Robin Jinbei, one of the best subs in the game. So there's actually a pretty decent pool of characters here. Part 2 looks not too bad. I mean, especially if you've done like the 10 multis on part 1 and you're still looking to pull Luffy, I don't think this is an overly bad part. Just, they've got some good characters on this pool, actually. It's pretty decent. And then, of course, if you look at the limited pool and the super limited pool, the amount of characters that are available are quite restricted even more. So if you go to certain steps, you get the limited pool or the super limited pool. This looks honestly still pretty good too. But I guess with all that, let's go ahead and move on to part number 3. So remember, in part 3, these are the only legends that you can pull in this part. So again, pretty restricted, right, in terms of the characters that you can pull. But let's go ahead and have a look. So in part number 3, you've got Shanks, we all know is great. Zoro and Sanji, one of the best in the game. Gear 5 Luffy, one of the best in the game. Legend Nami, one of the best in the game. Already, those first 4 units, absolutely phenomenal. This is already looking amazing. You've got Quick Shanks, is alright. Tandem Kaido, the strength one, a little outdated, but still usable, I guess. Final Tap Kid is not that great. He needs an update badly. And then the original Goldie Roger, still a very beginner-friendly character. As for the anniversary exclusives, you got Blackbeard and Tandem Ace. These characters are fine. Blackbeard's pretty good going through defensive effects. Ace is not really seen that much play. And as for the generic Sugo-Fest exclusives, do we have any useful ones here? I mean, Robin Koala has a useful special, for sure. You've got Queen, who's very good. Corazon and Law is a nice character to have as well. Ben Beckman, Lucky Roo, is one of my favorites. He's a very good unit. The Strength Doflamingo is also nice to have, good for building driven teams and resisting Special Bind. You've got the V3 Rayleigh, who recently received his Super Evolution, who's really solid. You also have Pudding, which could be a really nice utility character for getting through content. And speaking of utility, Shirahoshi and Mancherry being able to remove any two debuffs by 10 turns is also really clutch to have. And the original V1 Rayleigh, who is still very good to this day, mainly because he has one of the greatest supports in the game. So if you're looking for something like that, Rayleigh's not bad either, dude. Honestly, part 3 looks kind of cracked because those list of Super Sugos is phenomenal. Like, just looking at those first 4 characters, they're some of the best units in the game. Like, those 4 characters that is listed there, probably in the top 10 of the game, straight up. So, part 3 looks phenomenal just because of that alone. You move on to the limited pool, and then the super limited pool. Like, the super limited pool has Zoro, Sanji, Gear 5, Nami, and Shanks. It's got Blackbeard as well, which is also kind of good. And then they kind of dilute the pool a little bit with what's his name? Fuji and Kizaru, Shanks, Buggy, and Robin Koala, which is fine, but yeah, this is a pretty good looking list of characters right here. So next on the list is going to be part 4, which features Ace. Now next to him you've got Goldie Roger, which kind of makes sense. Roger and Odin, who's still not bad, I suppose. They don't see a hell of a lot of play though. Lord and Kid, another character that doesn't see that much play. Luffy Yamato, not a big fan of that unit at all. The Psy Luffy, this Snake Man Luffy from Film Red, legit never sees play. He's just a super outdated unit. He was okay on release, but he got power crept very quickly, so that Luffy's not great. Dex Tandem Luffy, I'm kind of surprised he's actually featured on one of the banners here, mainly due to the fact that this Luffy is receiving the Super Evolution and he's already featured on another Sugo-Fest, so that's surprising that he's here. Int Yamato and Strength Odin, they're also kind of fine. Part 4 for the Super Sugos definitely feels a lot weaker compared to what we just looked at, but of course Ace being such a high positive unit, you know, makes sense, and the rest of them are just kind of fine, honestly. The anniversary exclusives, though, you've got Shanks, he's amazing. Sabo is also amazing. And then you've got the waifus, another great character. So the anniversary exclusives for this one are very, very strong. And then for the Sugo-Fest exclusives, for the generic Sugos, like Uta is amazing. Hiyori, this is the character that I was talking about earlier for Enma Zoro. This character is basically needed to make Enma Zoro actually work. So if you don't have her, Enma Zoro is not going to help you that much. Tandem Law is a unit that has been out for a while, but still very nice to have. And I guess that's kind of it. I mean, you got Chopper. V1 Chopper is still a good unit, good utility special. And then if you want to duplicate drops at the end of a quest, you can have Legend Buggy. And also Corazon, who has another very fantastic support effect for Trafalgar Law, one of the best supports in the game. You would love to have him on your account if you do not have him currently. So yeah, in terms of part 4, it's definitely not my favorite because I just don't think the Super Sugos are as valuable as the characters that we just looked at in part 3. But the anniversary exclusives on this part are actually very good. So take that as you will. It is dependent on what you're looking for on your account for sure. But part 4 just doesn't seem as strong as some of the others. And then we'll go ahead and have a look at part number 5 to wrap it up. So remember, with part 5, this is the part that is focusing on Gold Roger. And Gold D Roger is an anniversary exclusive. So he's going to be put into that role. And then you've got the Super Sugos on part 5, which are a bit different. You've got the Magma Kaido, who's fine. You've got the Dex Linlin, and partnering that next to the Nico Robin is fantastic. So Robin and Linlin, they basically do the same thing, but for different classes. You've got Robin focusing on Cerebral and Free Spirit, and you've got Big Mom focusing on Driven and Powerhouse. And you definitely want both of these units on your account. They just maximize the amount of damage that you can do with double stacking conditional buffs. Incredibly valuable units, so it's cool that they're both featured together. But then you've also got Kaido versus Yamato. They're fine for sure. They're definitely useful in their own ways, but I feel like Kaido versus Yamato don't really get that great until you get them rainbowed out with their super tandem or their... Well, Kaido's final tap isn't that great, but the Yamato super tandem is phenomenal. And I feel like it's only really great until you get it to like level 4, level 5. So that's fine. Roger Whitebeard, one of the best characters in Pirate Rumble, hands down. And it doesn't really see that much play in normal content, but still nice to have. Same as Luffy Crew. Like, they're just okay. They're severely power crept, but still, they have probably the best final tap in the game, with the ability to just magnify the amount of damage that your crew's done. If your crew's done like 1 billion damage, their final tap multiplies your 1 billion by 1.2 and adds it as additional damage. So this character like literally doubles the amount of damage your crew does. Legit, as I said, one of the best final taps, if not the best final tap in the game. But this definitely feels like much more of a subsidiary part. As I said, like none of these Super Sugos are like god tier headliner units, but as I said, Linlin and Robin are fantastic crewmates to have in a lot of other teams. Like, they're really valuable. The others, you know, they're nice to have for sure, but I wouldn't say they're like complete game changers. As for the anniversary exclusives, the new Roger, I think this is the best character to start One Piece Treasure Cruise with as a beginner player. This unit is absolutely freaking phenomenal. He is so powerful. You've got the other characters next to him with Kobe. Not great, honestly. He's okay. The Dex Zoro, a little outdated. And then K-Dad, who are not too bad. Good final tap. Good for like those mono slasher teams. But yeah, I just don't think if you're a beginner player, they're going to be that useful for you. But they're really nice to have if you have like a really good established account with good slasher focused characters. Now, as for the generic Sugos, Quick Hiyori is not that great. She's fine. Sai Momo is fantastic. Rayleigh Gaban, really, really good. Underrated unit. Fantastic unit. You got the Cat Viper, which is pretty nice. You've got V1 Kaido, which is kind of nice for like clearing story mode faster. I know that if you're a new player and you want to like blast through the story mode, this is probably the best character to do it with, which is kind of funny. And then you've got, you got Cracker, who's a good sub, and you've got V1 Blackbeard, okay, but yeah, like part 5 is just, it doesn't look that great, does it? Like, it doesn't seem as valuable as some of the other parts, but I guess if you end up getting extremely lucky and you have like all the units except for Roger, pulling on this part is fine, I suppose. I mean, you get access to still some pretty good units, as I said. Like, if you look at the super limited pull step, you got the Big Mom, you've got Momo, you've got Nico Robin, you've got the new Roger, of course, Kaido vs Yamato with investments, fantastic. Obviously, the Magma Kaido does have a Rush Sugo special, so getting more copies of him is never a bad thing, you know. But that's pretty much it. So, in my opinion, as a little bit of a rundown, the way that I see things, I think that you should probably do this 10th pull at the bottom of the screen. The 10th pull on part 1 to get all full multi of reds. You should at least go to that part. I think that is where everyone should be doing pulls. It just seems too crazy not to do it, especially because every legend is pullable, right? So going to that, seeing what you can get, and then kind of determining where you want to pull based on what you get from those 10 multis. That's the way that I think that most people should be approaching this, depending on how many gems you have. Remember, as soon as we log in for the anniversary, we will receive 100 gems, and especially throughout all of the event periods, we're going to have over 500 gems that you can do the 10 multis on this Sugo-Fest part 4. But then post that, depending on what you want to do, you can go a little deeper on part 1, but then it really comes down to what you're missing or what you want to look for, right? For part 2, this is a decent part. You've got some pretty good Super Sugos with Uta, Sanji, Zoro, Yamato, Luffy, Ace Yamato, of course, Cross Guild, and some other generic characters that are actually still pretty good. But then if you go over to like part 3 looks crazy good. Look at the list of Super Sugos on part 3. Shanks, Zoro, Sanji, Luffy, Nami. These characters are bonkers. So part 3 looks a little spicy. It is unfortunate if you're just looking for Ace, because I feel like this part feels kind of weak compared to the other ones that we talked about. And then you go over to part 5, which is a bit of a weird one. It's going to be a weird situation to pull on part 5 specifically if you're missing Goldie Roger. Because this one just doesn't seem as good either as the other parts. But that's the rundown, guys. It was a bit of a longer video, but hopefully you understand exactly what I'm talking about for this Sugo-Fest and what you should be expecting moving forward. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'm wishing everyone the best of luck on the anniversary Sugo-Fest, which is debuting tomorrow as of the recording of this video. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a big day tomorrow. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.